and that you had access to a research study that was done by Harvard University in the 70s, I believe, that determined what moves black people. Could you talk about that study and how it relates to this conversation?
Here's the interesting thing about that study, that many of the people, black people that I knew in the entertainment industry at that time, had no knowledge of the study. It was called a study of the soul music environment. It was conducted by Harvard University, and so it became known as the Harvard Report. And some people say that Clive Davis commissioned Harvard to conduct the report. Clive Davis said he didn't do it. But what the report lays out is how to take over and control black music and the black music industry. Now, at that time, there was much more of a black music industry than there is now.
Yes.
There were black-owned record companies on various levels. There were black-owned record stores. So you could decide, you and Sin could decide to put out a record right now. If you put the record out right now, you have difficulty getting airplay and you have difficulty getting distribution of your record. But in those days, you could take your record to somebody that was called a one-stop distributor.
Yeah, mom and pop. Well, not before the mom and pop, the one-stop.
One-stop distributor. They would take it. Ted Hudson in St. Louis would take just take it to Ted in St. Louis. He will take it to all of the independently owned black record stores in St. Louis. So your record would be in the stores in St. Louis as soon as you were able to afford it, as soon as you were ready, which is one of the reasons that in those days you used to hear a record break out regionally. You would hear it first in Maryland and then in Washington, D.C., then you would hear it in Philadelphia, in New York. It was because the independent record company could not afford to press 1 million records at one time. So they would do 5,000 records, and they would sell those in Philadelphia. It would be a hit in Philadelphia. It used to be a thing called a tip sheet that independent record promoters would come by and representing your record. And they would show the program director in a bigger market, here's the tip sheet from Philadelphia, from Washington. This record is number 1 and 2 in these markets. It's a good record. Go on the record for me. Also, they had developed a relationship, a personal relationship, so that when a guy like Isaac Hayes, who nobody ever heard of, comes with a song that's 9 minutes long,
Yeah.
at an era when 3-minute records was the criteria,
Standard,
the standard. Isaac came with a record that was 9 minutes long by the time I get to Phoenix, with a whole lot of talk into the song. Well, nobody's going to play that record. Rick Sklar here at WABC wasn't going to play it because he was white, so he wouldn't play black music. Even when Isaac Hayes was a monster star, Rick Sklar wouldn't play his music. He was only going to get it played at the independent black radio stations. But what happens is that an independent promoter takes the record, comes to the local program director, and they would say, I have some new product. They were calling it product in those days. I have some new product, and I want you to play this record for me, not for Isaac Hayes. Never heard of Isaac Hayes, but I knew Buddy Scott, the promoter who was coming with the record. And he would say, do this for Al Bell. Al Bell is the owner, the brother who owns Stax Records. So do this for Al Bell. And that was the kind of very personal, very human network that existed all over the country.
Right.
Empowering from the inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then you would play the record. The record would play. Independent promoters, Teddy Powell, M. Morton Hall, independent promoters would see that the record is now number 1 on RL in New York. They would bring Isaac Hayes to town. They would present Isaac Hayes in a small enough venue that they could afford. He wasn't a monster star yet. And so there was an entertainment industry where there were independent black record promoters, independent concert promoters, people who owned places. Sylvia, you remember Sylvia's Blue Morocco in the Bronx? That's Sylvia from the Mickey and Sylvia duo who owned Sylvia's Blue Morocco in the Bronx. There was an independent entertainment industry that was really thriving. People were making a great deal of money, but they couldn't make it as fast as they could make it if they hooked up with a major corporation. So that if Columbia Records offered you a deal, they could give you your money up front. They started offering cash advances, but many, many black artists understood the value of having your own industry, and they stayed with those independent companies. As a result, there needed to be a blueprint to put those companies out of business.
Wow.
The Harvard Report.
Right.
And the Harvard Report talked about how to do that, how to package the money, the music, how to segment the music, to how to just control it. And it was looking at how things were developing, what the trend would be, and preparing record companies for the future. You know, and it worked really very well. And it had to do with imitating. It had to do first with changing what was coming out of black music. Change it, water it down, make it something that white artists could imitate.
Yeah. Dumb it down.
And then if you could get a powerful, popular white artist, Lionel Richie, to start to water down the music.
Oh, wow.
And if you could get him to do some duets with a powerful white artist, Kenny Rogers, and the black audience won't notice that the music suddenly sounds a little bit more country than it used to.
Now, to your point, I had the honor and privilege of working with Gerald Busby before he passed away, and you know, he shared a expose that he had put together, and I think he was referencing the Harvard Report. But he talked about how black independently owned record labels owned the lion's share of the music market in the 70s.
That's right.
We were killing the corporates and the white boys. We were killing them.
Right.
And they were like, well, how do we break the back of this independent movement? And I guess this Harvard Report was something that fueled that energy.
The Harvard Report said imitate it. And so if you can get some dominant or prominent black artists to start to subtly change what they do, black audiences won't notice that right away. Then you get the white artists to start doing it also. Now the black artist is doing music that white artists can imitate. See, there was a time when black music was so powerful. Tom Jones could not sing like Wilson Pickett. They couldn't sing like James Brown. They couldn't sing like Gladys
that
Knight.
Little extra soul that we put on things that takes that little extra something that we have that they can't replicate.
But if you can take it out, if you can get the black artists to stop doing that, get the black artists to water it down, then you can begin to produce a music that the white artists can imitate. Once you produce the music that white artists can imitate, then the white artists will come out and since the award shows are rigged from the beginning,
That's right.
then the white artists will get the Soul Music Award.
Justin Timberlake. Give me some more.
I'm thinking on hip hop level, and I'm thinking about Macklemore. And
you know,
Eminem
even Eminem, as talented as Eminem is, there's still that something that's Redman.
You know,
like that soul, it's that extra something that we put
Rakim,
on it. Rakim,
right?
it's that
They
extra.
couldn't imitate
So when we
Rakim.
dumb it down, we create the bridge for our music to be taken from us.
Right.
In the Black Arts Movement, Professor Larry Neal, one of the architects of the Black Arts Movement, prominent poet, activist, revolutionary, and Larry Neal said to black poets at the time, these are the fiery black poets of the Black Arts Movement.
Right.
Larry Neal said that if we're going to really reach the people with our poetry, because our poetry was wonderful, it was excellent, but the masses of the people were not listening to that. And Larry said that if you're going to really reach the masses, we're going to have to learn to poet the way James Brown sings. And then when you watch hip-hop artists, it seems like the hip-hop artists heard Larry say that, because hip-hop artists move up and down the stage like James Brown. They turn the microphone up into their mouth like James Brown.
Oh, James Brown's the father of our culture.
Yeah.
They have a rhythm. They have an energy and a rhythm like James Brown. Larry was right. With that whole style is how you resonate with the masses of the people, because you see there's something in there that, as you pointed out a moment ago, is uniquely our own. And so people in the audience, they don't necessarily say, oh, that's for me. They just feel it. They just relate to it. And if you can take that out, here's what happened to radio. Black radio was powerful. It was playing music from the total black experience and sound. What happened is that black owners and managers made the mistake of trying to accommodate white supremacy. They tried to accommodate racism. So racism said, black is too powerful, and we can't compete with y'all. We got TV commercials running, we got billboards up, but black and white people continue to go to the black radio station. We can't compete with you. Y'all, it's too black, and black is too powerful, so we don't want you to be black anymore. So black owners, like the owners of WBLS and the owners and managers of WWRL, they said, okay, racism, if you don't want us to be black, we'll accommodate you. We won't be black. We'll be urban. If we can tone down the black. So then you decide to be urban. Then racism says a couple of years later, we don't like urban either. That's still too black. We'll be adult contemporary.
AC.
Right? And then then racism ultimately says, actually, we don't want you around at all. Are they around?
Nope.
All of those efforts to accommodate racism, inner city is out of business. WWRL is a Spanish language station taken over by the people who really own the station, changed the format entirely. All of what RL has done to punk out and back down and concede, still they are driven out. They made every concession they could make. The owner of that station told me once that he did not want, when I was there, that he did not want me to bring Gary Bird over with me because he didn't want all of that Hotep stuff on his radio station.
Come on.
Then they said that I was too black and that you can't sell Bob Law's brand of black. So they moved me out, wouldn't let Bird come, toned it down until they have now been forced to even stop speaking English. See, racism will turn you on your head and spin you around. If you try to accommodate racism, it will ultimately crush you. You have to be willing to push back. You've got to be willing to stand up to it.
Yeah. So, sorry, not to cut you. So, I knew about the Harvard Report because I worked on a film with you. And you, working on that film, it was tentatively titled. What is the current title of your film?
Saying It Loud.
Yes. You showed the importance of black radio in the community, and Davey touched on it a little bit, and you touched on it as far as the independent artists. But I'm talking about the community being aware of what's going on and being able to mobilize them. Can you touch on that right now? And we always talk about not putting ad dollars. They always say that our community, although we're the top consumer, how many billions do we spend a year? They say that our advertising, they pay less to be on black stations than they do on white stations because they say the audience is not there. Can you touch on that?
Touch on that?
Yes, please.
To put it really simple terms, black radio is going out of business because the black radio station can't pay its bills.
Right.
That's basically what it is. They are going out of business because they can't pay their bills. They can't pay their bills because they don't get paid what they deserve based on how well they actually perform. So that a black radio station, in trying to sell advertising, runs into what is called an automatic minority discount. So that if you're a salesperson from your black-owned radio station goes to an ad agency and says, my rates are $100 a spot, $60, 60-minute spot, a 60-second spot is $100. The ad agency routinely says, we'll give you $75. We just automatically discount. So you say, but why is that? They say because black consumers do not have the same value as white consumers.
We have more.
They say we have less value. So we're not going to pay you. Now, here's how they get away with that.
Okay.
The black radio station or the black magazine, the black media refuses to confront that. So they won't come back. and say to you could say to that ad agency, listen to my station tomorrow. I want you to hear the editorial that's going to run tomorrow about what you just said to me about the value of black consumers. We and look at the community forums that we are hosting, the way WURD in Philadelphia has done, that makes it clear to black audiences how they are actually being perceived and characterized in the industry. But the black owners in New York City would not do that.
Right.
When they told them that your audience is not worth $100, they would say, okay, we'll take the 75. And over time, we are going to convince you that we are worth the $100. They thought that the agency just did not understand the black consumer.
Right.
They never were willing to admit that the agency is part of a racist institution that is deliberately trying to crush black people, take black consumer dollars for granted. But the black owners, which is probably one of the reasons that the whites who sold those radio stations chose them to sell it to, but those black owners would never acknowledge the political realities in this society. And they would say that even if we would go as activists, put pressure on the agencies, call for economic sanctions, force those agencies to spend money with black media, those black stations like Inner City, they would go get the advertising money and tell the ad agency, those activists in the street don't speak for us. And then they will say to each other and say at their luncheons and conventions that it wasn't the black power in the street. We went into the agency and we convinced the agency that we were a good buy, that you can reach the public through us. WBLS had a campaign on Madison Avenue that said, don't buy us because we're black. Buy us because we reach the people. What the ad industry said to them is that, what people are you talking about? We already reach white people.
Right.
The only reason that we deal with you at all is that you can deliver other people. You can deliver black people. If you can't deliver black people,
what do you?
Why do I have to spend money with you? I'm already reaching white people.
Can I ask you a question? I'm going to frame it as sort of a joke. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Django, if you saw the movie Django. If radio industry is the movie Django, who's Steven?
See, there's a thing that was introduced in Virginia in the 1700s called meritorious manumission.
Oh, Dr. Claude Anderson, big up.
Now, Stephen was trying to gain meritorious manumission. You can be freed if you tell on other slaves, if you invent something that the slave owner can benefit from, if you save the slave owner's life, if you do something of good merit that benefits the slave owner, then you could be freed without question, without any due process. That's what manumission is.
Yeah.
Right.
Meritorious manumission is very real. It was actually introduced in legislation in Virginia
It's law.
in the 1700s. However, meritorious manumission has also been passed down psychologically, emotionally to black people. So there are black people who are trying to say always to the slave owner that I'm with you, boss.
We sick, boss.
These people in the street, that's right.
sick.
Malcolm said, we sick. The people in the street are putting the pressure on. But boss, don't worry. We don't respond to them. They don't have they don't move us.
Right.
We're with you.
So when a person like Ebro at Hot 97 says you have the majors and you have the minors, and we're with the majors, you got to step up.
Right.
What he's really saying is that, I'm on the inside. I'm going to protect my position from the inside. He doesn't even know that's what he's doing. That's something that's been handed down to. Wow, that's deep.
See, if I can make it clear to the ruling class, or however you want to call it, to the oppressor, if I can make it clear that I'm not a threat, then perhaps they will hire me, they will keep me. When they are firing all the black folk, when they're changing the format, let me make some public statements right away that I understand what they're doing.
Right.
That they are simply doing what's in their own best interest. That people who have money, they're using their money effectively. We keep raising the wrong issue. That is trying to send a signal to those white owners that we are safe. You can trust us. You can keep us. You're going to get rid of everybody else on the station, but you don't have to get rid of us because we are still, we are your apologists. Meritorious manumission, it still exists. It is what a lot of people are doing is what black ownership did. Black ownership, rather than fight back. See, rather than fight back, black ownership said, we will be whatever you want us to be. Until the corporate America finally says, we don't even want you to be. And then now they are out of business with all of the compromises. See, there in the black community, you may have heard this from professional politicians. You hear them and black business people, you might have heard them say that politics is the art of compromise. I don't know if you've ever heard that. But people say politics is the art of compromise. What they are saying is that they have perfected the art of backing down and punking out. And that's how they have lived their lives. That's been their career. Wow. So rather than simply acknowledge that I've been a punk all my life, what they say is, I have perfected punking out to an art form. It is the art of compromise. Compromise means when I go into the meeting, I don't even intend to get what I came for. I'm coming into the meeting prepared to get less than what I was coming for, because I have learned the art of compromise. And it suggests that getting a little bit, I only got a little bit. But you should all applaud me and respect me because I am so skillful. I know how to get a little bit.
Wow.